Good morning. This is Ogle's Fish Room. I just had a question, or several questions actually, from one of the viewers to maybe go into a little more detail about my filtration and if I measure pH, etc., etc. Just how I keep my tanks clean, that sort of thing, keep my fish healthy. So I replied by saying that I thought his questions were very good, and I haven't done one. Well, I mean, I mention it from time to time, but I haven't really done a video specifically on that, so I thought I would, and this is it. Okay, this is my 75. I really am going to try to go through this quickly. Obviously, there's a lot of wood structure, which you have heard me talk about and obviously seen quite a bit in here. This is a giant. I'm not sure if you can see the giant stump sticking out of the top of my 75 aquarium, but that is it. Anyway, it has two branches. I tried to get this part down in the water, but the 75s, because they're so darn huge, have a brace across the metal, and I simply could not get that in the tank. If I had, I'd just have the branchy part sticking out the top, but it just didn't work out. So basically, this root has a branch to the left. I don't know if you can, and then one to the right. Anyway, this is what's coming down in the water here. So there's a branch on each side of the brace across the top, but each branch is huge. It's not a small branch. It goes all the way down to the ground right here. It goes, well, you can't see it, but it does go down to the back of the tank over there, which is what that huge other piece of wood in the background is resting on. And there's another branch. There's another branch coming this way. There's a branch over here coming down over here, and almost doesn't fit in this tank. It's literally touching the glass wall right there. Okay, so anyway, the point of my story is this has a bit of tannic acid in it. It's not dirty. It's just a little bit brownish. I do from time to time get tired of looking at it and do like a 50 to 75% water change, and it's nice looking for a little while. But for those of you that might not be so experienced, the tannic acid will not hurt your fish. To be quite frank, it is like an antibiotic to fish. It actually helps the health of the fish, to be quite real about it. There's actually a health benefit to it, to the fish, as compared to a negative. To me, it's the only negative is that I don't like looking at it. But some people don't mind. Matter of fact, for the younger crowd, I'm 68 and I've been doing this a long time, so things have changed. But for the younger crowd, this is becoming more and more popular. People are trying to really make the inside of their tanks look exactly like where the fish are coming from. For instance, like the Amazon, which would have the Amazon floods every year, and would have just a tremendous almost might go up 50 to 100 feet in the rainy season, and therefore the tannic acid coming out of full-grown trees would be just tremendous. So it's pitch black. So is here in Florida, we have the St. Johns River that's also drains all the rain through the land masses down into the river, and it is pitch black. Pretty darn dark anyway. And so anyway, it's not harmful to the fish. It's just whether it's something you may find appealing or not. I've talked to a lot of young people, like at the pet stores, and some of them really like that look. Okay, so and if you don't boil your water, obviously I was not able to do that to these giant roots, but all my smaller pieces were boiled in a giant what you cook spaghetti in, a giant pan for like 3 or 4 hours to get most of the tannic acid out of them. It also helps them to sink, saturates them so they don't float. because I see a lot of people doing YouTube videos that are having to glue their wood to rocks to keep them from floating because they've never had that in the water before. Whatever, that's fine. I personally don't like that. Now I glue plants to wood, but and I do like Anubias, and the Java fern I glue to rocks. And I think you all have seen some examples of that, so I probably won't do that right now. But anyway, the point is that I forgot my point. Anyway, see what happens when you get old. Anyway, the point is that I do try to boil my wood. I do try to get as much tannic acid out of it, and I don't. The reason okay, I just got my memory back. The reason I don't like some of the things I see on the internet is because they're gluing all the rocks and all the wood together in the entire tank, which I understand. They think it's very pretty, blah blah blah. Okay, I get that, but you can't ever move that. It's like a permanent fixture now. So I personally don't care for that. I do this piece of wood over here to the left, right there. Used to be over here in the center, where there's some other plants and wood now. But I like to move things around if I don't find them pleasing. I like that one up there. I like this one over here. But they're just on wood that I can simply pick up and move around. Same thing with the, I don't have any in this particular tank, but the same thing with the Java fern that I put on rocks. It's very easy for me just to pick them up and move them from one tank to another if I care to do so. Anyway, okay, back to some of the questions. I'm going to start moving around the room here and showing some of my other tanks. Now these are all my, of course the 75 was a community tank, obviously for bigger fish. These are all my betta tanks. Does have wood. Now I boiled this piece. There's probably 2 pieces in there. Anyway, before I put it in, and so it's nice. Yeah, well, I think it's pretty clear. Now from time to time, I still do 50% water changes in these. But back to Thomas's, that was one of the gentlemen that asked me these questions. Back to his questions. Frankly, Thomas, I don't pay attention to the pH and all. I don't test my water. Now, some of you are just going to pass out from that statement, but I mean, I have a kit. I know how to do it, but I don't have anybody dying in my tanks. I do 50% water changes, probably, I don't know, once a month maybe. But I try. I'm fanatic about keeping my. When I do, for instance, right here, when I do a water change, let's say I drop this down 50%. Well, the filters are getting cleaned. Okay, this sponge is being pulled out. It's being cleaned thoroughly. It's got a outside filter right here behind this plant that all the filter mediums in the filter will be taken out and cleaned. So all that goes on, and I have never had a problem with any, like I've heard some people say, I only clean one sponge filter at a time, or I do this or I do that. To me, that's bull. I have never had a problem, excuse me, I'm trying to scoot forward here. I've never had a problem by taking these out and cleaning the pudding out of them and putting them back in. I don't believe, okay, I've done a lot of research on this. I don't believe the chlorine, what little bit of chlorine is in your tap water is going to hurt the biological or the beneficial bacteria in these sponges unless you let them sit. If you put them in a bowl, poured water straight out of the sink and let it sit for a couple hours, then yes, I think you probably would damage the bacteria. But that's not what I do. I pull these out. They go in a bowl so I'm not dripping all over the place. They go to the sink. They get washed out thoroughly, which probably does not take me a full minute, or not 2 at the most. And they get put back. And yes, I wash most of the blackness that's coming out of that. I mean, I wash and wash and wash. But I believe that there are so many billions of bacteria in these sponges that we can hardly see that sponge. But in these sponges that I believe it's surviving. I also believe that everything in your tank has got bacteria on it. I mean, now, okay, if you were starting a sterile tank straight from the store, that's a different story. But when I do that, even if I do that, which I, of course, had to do with some of these, everything else, because I have so many tanks, everything, the sand, I'm stealing a little sand from some of these tanks to put in the sterile tank. Okay, I'm taking wood and plants, some of this stuff. Look at the algae on this rock. Okay, something is bringing bacteria into that new sterile tank. So as long as you're not going to the store, buying a sterile tank that's never had water in it, doesn't have anything living in it, and put plastic plants, water out of the tap, and then put your fish in, yeah, you're going to have a problem. But if you don't do that, you probably be okay. Now, back to his questions, I just don't feel the need to test all the time and to, I mean, my water looks fine. I do constant water changes. I clean my filters constantly. I just feel that if you are up on your tanks and you take care, here's a little girl in the back there, and a nearite snail in the front. If you take care of your tanks, I think you're fine. I really do. I mean, years ago, I used to be fanatic about all that testing stuff, and I learned that nothing seemed to change. If I did a friggin' 75% water change and cleaned the pudding out of all my filtration media, nothing changed in the testing when you tested it after that. Now, of course, I use conditioner. What is it? Let's see.